Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today, we're diving into a fascinating mystery of the mind. Time dilation. Why dreams feel longer than they really are. Have you ever woken up from a dream that seemed to last for hours, only to find you've been asleep for just a few minutes? Stick around as we explore how your brain bends time while you sleep. And before we start, tell me in the comments, from where are you watching this video? The night is quiet now. You feel it in the still air around you, the sense that the world has folded itself into rest. The clock, somewhere in the background, ticks on, steady and unhurried. Each second falls into the next, like soft rain slipping from a leaf. You listen to it for a while, noticing how the rhythm feels the same as it always does. Even without looking, you know the hand will take exactly a minute to move from one mark to the next. It is the clock's truth, mechanical, constant, predictable. But the truth inside you is different, because while the clock keeps its perfect pace, you are a river, and rivers do not move the same way every moment. Sometimes they rush, sometimes they slow, and sometimes they feel as though they are standing still, letting the world drift around them. This is your perception of time. It lives not in the gears of a clock or in the alignment of the sun and moon, but in the way your mind experiences change. Your sense of a moment depends on what you are feeling, what you are noticing, and how your brain is weaving those experiences into memory. Think of a summer afternoon when you were a child. The day seemed to stretch endlessly. The sunlight moved slowly across the grass, and you felt as though the hours had doubled themselves, each one wide enough to hold entire adventures. Now compare that to a busy morning at work, when hours vanish as if they were only minutes. The clock insists the same amount of time has passed in both cases, but your body and mind tell a different story. This is the beginning of understanding time's elasticity. It is not just a property of the universe. It is a sensation, a perception shaped by your brain's inner workings. When scientists study time perception, they find that your brain does not measure it directly. Instead, it uses patterns. The rhythm of your heartbeat, the firing of neurons, the pace of your breath. These internal cues are stitched together to create a feeling of duration. Sometimes the stitching is loose and the fabric of time stretches thin. Other times, it gathers tight, pulling the moments close together. And in dreams, this fabric can become something else entirely, a flowing cloth that changes shape with every turn of thought. But before we step into dream time, let's pause with the reality of the waking world for a moment longer. There is a part of your brain, deep inside, just above where your optic nerves cross, that acts like a master clock. It is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It listens to signals from the eyes, tracking the rise and fall of daylight, and it sets the tempo for your daily rhythms when you feel alert, when you feel tired, when your body is ready to sleep. This clock is steady, but it is not the only timekeeper you have. Other parts of your brain keep their own rhythms, and when they fall out of step, time can feel strange. You've felt this in moments of excitement, in fear, in deep focus, when seconds expand or contract until they no longer resemble their measured selves. And then there is memory, the quiet artist of time. Memory decides how long an experience feels once it has passed. If many new things happen in a short span, your memory packs them densely, and looking back, it feels longer than it was. If little changes, memory compresses the moment, and in hindsight, it feels shorter. Dreams take this to another level. In sleep, your sense of time is not anchored by the outside world. The ticking clock is no longer your reference. Your brain creates its own rhythm, and that rhythm can be slower or faster than waking life, so much so that a few minutes of real time can feel like days, weeks, or even years within the dream. Imagine a dream where you walk through a city. You pass markets, streets, alleys, you meet strangers, have conversations, and watch the light change from morning to afternoon. When you wake, you check the clock and see that only 10 minutes have passed since you fell asleep. How can that be? It is because the brain is not bound to the same sensory demands in dreams. When awake, you rely on your eyes, ears, skin, and all your senses to feed you information in real time. In a dream, your waking mind measures time with events. When those events are rich and varied, time feels full. When they are few, time feels sparse. Dreams are full to overflowing, layered with imagery, emotion, and sensation, so they feel abundant, no matter how little time has passed outside of them. Scientists have tried to measure this by working with lucid dreamers, people who can recognize when they are dreaming and control their actions. In experiments, lucid dreamers were asked to count to 10 while asleep and to signal when they finished by moving their eyes in a special pattern. Researchers found that the counting in dreams took almost the same amount of real time as in waking life, but the experience of that counting could feel longer. This tells us that dream time is not purely faster or slower than waking time. It is more flexible, stretching and folding depending on the content of the dream, the emotions involved, and the way memory processes them. You can think of it like watching a movie. If you are caught up in the story, time passes without you noticing. If the scene is rich and layered, you may remember it as longer than it was. Dreams are like this, movies projected in your own mind, edited and paced by your own subconscious. And just as films can play with slow motion or fast cuts, dreams can adjust their pace. You may drift slowly through one scene, then suddenly jump to another moment hours later without noticing the transition. This freedom from continuous time is part of what makes dreams feel so strange and so expansive. It is also why you sometimes wake with the sense that you have lived an entire other life in the space of one night. The hours of sleep may be fixed, but the hours of dream are not. Now, as you lie here, breathing slowly, you can feel your own inner clock begin to loosen. Your mind is starting to unhook itself from the precise rhythm of the ticking world. The edges of your awareness soften. The minutes feel a little less sharp. This is the threshold, where waking time begins to yield to the time of dreams. You are still aware of the room around you, but your thoughts are beginning to flow differently. Ideas stretch out. Moments fold in on themselves. Soon, you will cross into that place where clocks do not rule, and where seconds can open wide enough to hold entire journeys. But before you go, pause for a moment to notice this feeling, the slow unfolding of time, the gentle way it bends when you are still, the way your breath can make minutes feel longer or shorter, depending on how you inhabit them. Because in the next step of our journey, we will look deeper into the quiet machinery inside you that keeps the beat of your days and decides when to let you drift away. You are still lying there, the edges of your awareness soft from the thought of time folding. The night air holds you gently, and the silence feels deeper now. It's in that quiet that we can hear something subtler than the ticking of a clock, the steady rhythm your body keeps without asking you. It isn't your heartbeat, though that too is a metronome of sorts. It is a different rhythm, hidden deeper, woven into the brain itself. It is your inner clock, a small cluster of about 20,000 neurons, tucked above where the optic nerves cross, known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. You have never seen it, but it has guided you every day of your life. It decides when you are alert, when your eyelids grow heavy, when your body temperature drops for sleep, and when it rises to greet the morning. The SCN is not alone. Other clocks live in your body, in your liver, your skin, even your gut. They are like members of an orchestra, each keeping their own rhythm, but taking cues from a conductor. The SCN is that conductor, and like any good conductor, it listens. It takes its timing from the outside world, especially from light. Every morning, when daylight touches your eyes, light-sensitive cells in your retina send a signal straight to the SCN. This light says, "The day has begun," and your SCN adjusts its tempo accordingly. This daily adjustment is vital. Without it, your body's natural rhythm, a cycle called the circadian rhythm, would drift slightly each day. Humans left in complete darkness often have a natural cycle a little longer than 24 hours. The SCN keeps you in sync with the actual day-night cycle of Earth. You can think of it like a finely tuned watch that resets each morning with the sunrise. No matter how accurate a watch is, if you never check it against a reference, it will eventually run fast or slow. Your SCN checks its time daily, so you stay aligned with the world around you. But light is not the only thing your inner clock listens to. It also hears whispers from your habits, when you eat, when you move, when you expose yourself to bright light in the evening. These are all cues that can nudge the timing of your circadian rhythm. That's why traveling across time zones can feel so strange. Your SCN is still set to the old day and night, and it takes time for it to reset to the new one. This is what we call jet lag. Your internal time and the external time no longer match, and your body must slowly bring them into harmony again. In dreams, the SCN is less active. It no longer needs to keep you alert or track daylight, but even in sleep, it continues to keep its beat, preparing for the next waking cycle. There's something beautiful in knowing that even as you rest, some part of you is keeping time. Faithfully, quietly, without pause. It is the guardian of your biological rhythm. When scientists studied animals whose SCN was damaged, something curious happened. The animals lost their regular sleep-wake cycle. They still slept, but without a consistent pattern. The structure of time, as their bodies knew it, had unraveled. For humans, this structure is more than convenience. It shapes our health, mood, and even our perception of reality. When your circadian rhythm is in tune, you feel awake in the day, tired at night, and your dreams arrive in their natural place. When it is disrupted, through shift work, constant travel, or irregular habits, the sense of time itself can blur. You may have felt this: nights that seem endless, days that feel hollow and stretched thin. It is not just the hours themselves that feel off, but your body's relationship to them. The SCN works closely with a hormone called melatonin. Produced by the pineal gland in your brain, melatonin rises in the evening, telling your body that night has come. Light suppresses melatonin, which is why bright screens at night can make it harder to sleep. The SCN regulates when melatonin is released, aligning it with your environment's day and night. When melatonin flows freely, your body temperature drops slightly, your muscles relax, and your mind begins to slow. It is as though your inner clock is dimming the lights of consciousness, preparing the stage for dreams. But the SCN also manages the tempo of your wakefulness. In the late morning, it signals for your body temperature to rise, your heart rate to quicken, your brain to become more alert. In the afternoon, there is often a natural dip in energy, a quiet reminder of the body's cycles. And then, in the late evening, the descent begins again. Even knowing all this, the SCN remains mysterious. It is so small, and yet it holds the rhythm of an entire life. If you could sit quietly inside it, you would hear the gentle firing of neurons, a slow and constant conversation in electrical signals. It would sound like the softest tapping, like rain beginning on a roof. In the way it listens to light and patterns, the SCN is almost poetic. It is not simply a clock, it is an interpreter of the world, translating the turning of the planet into the music of your body. And it is old, not in the sense of being worn, but in the sense of belonging to deep time. The circadian rhythm exists in almost all living things, plants, fungi, even bacteria. Long before humans walked the earth, life learned to follow the light and dark, the sun and stars. So when you feel your eyes grow heavy at night, or your mind wake gently with the morning, you are following a rhythm older than human memory. It is the same rhythm that guided ancient forests, that told flowers when to open and told animals when to rest. This connection to the ancient is part of why a regular rhythm feels so grounding. When you are aligned with your inner clock, you are also aligned with the earth itself. And yet in dreams, this alignment loosens. The SCN does not dictate the flow of dream time. Once you have crossed into sleep, your perception of time begins to drift. The conductor steps back, and the orchestra plays a different kind of music, one without measure, one that bends and folds in ways waking time never can. You are approaching that place now. Your breath is slow, your body is still, and the pull towards sleep is gentle but steady. Your inner clock continues its work in the background, but another part of you is about to take the lead. Because in dreams, time is no longer set by sunlight or circadian rhythms. It is shaped by memory, imagination, and the strange way the brain knits experience together while you rest. And in the next step of our journey, we will wander into that landscape to see how the mind builds time. You are drifting now. The soft rhythm of your breath has become the only sound you notice. The light of the waking world fades, and with it, the firm grip of the seconds and minutes you've always known. You enter a different kind of time, one with no clock face, no sunrise, no alarm to divide the moments. Here, a heartbeat can feel like an hour, and an hour can pass without you feeling it at all. In this place, you do not walk through time, you float inside it. It bends around you like water flowing past a stone, sometimes swift and unstoppable, sometimes so slow that you can see every droplet suspended in the air. In the waking world, time is bound by physics. The earth spins, light moves at a fixed speed, seconds pass evenly no matter where you are. Our most precise atomic clocks measure these seconds by counting the vibrations of atoms, billions of oscillations for each tick. But the dreaming brain does not own an atomic clock. It measures time in a softer, stranger way, through the density of experience. If your dream is crowded with images, if scenes change quickly, if your mind races from one place to another without pause, it can feel as if hours have passed. Your perception of time stretches because there is so much for your mind to hold. In contrast, a quiet dream, one where you float through a single scene where almost nothing changes, may feel short even if the same amount of real-world time has passed. This is because the brain does not count seconds while you sleep. It counts events, changes in imagery, shifts in emotion, movements through imagined space. The more events there are, the longer the dream feels. Think of it like reading a book. When you read a slow, still chapter with only a few descriptions, it feels brief. But when a chapter is packed with action, dialogue, and vivid detail, you may look up after finishing and feel as though you've been reading for much longer. The physics of waking time is based on motion in the external world. The physics of dream time is based on motion inside your mind. In dreams, you are the timekeeper, and you are not strict. Sometimes, the mind even folds events together. A journey that should take hours happens instantly, and you accept it without question. A mountain that was far away in one moment is under your feet in the next. This skipping is called temporal compression. The brain edits the story of the dream, removing the in-between moments. In waking life, we sometimes feel this too. When deeply focused on something, a conversation, a song, a task, time can vanish. You come back to the present and realize an hour has passed. But in dreams, this compression is more radical. There is no outside world to anchor you, no shared clock ticking in the background. You are free to stretch and compress the seconds as your mind desires. Some scientists have tested this. In sleep labs, people are trained to signal with eye movements during a lucid dream, a dream in which they are aware they are dreaming. The dreamer is told to count to 10 inside the dream and signal again when done. When researchers measured the actual time, it was often close to 10 real seconds, but not always. Sometimes the counting took longer in dream time, sometimes shorter. This shows that dream time is not entirely disconnected from real time, but it is elastic, able to bend and warp depending on the dream's structure and the dreamer's awareness. Your brain in dreaming sleep, especially during REM sleep, is almost as active as when you are awake. It processes sensory-like imagery, narratives and emotions at high speed. But without real sensory input from the outside world, your mind becomes both the projector and the audience, building its own timeline from scratch. Imagine a river with no fixed banks. Its course changes as it flows, sometimes branching, sometimes looping back on itself. That is dream time. It is not constrained by the straight, narrow channel of waking seconds. In this space, you might have a dream in which you live an entire day, waking, walking, eating, speaking to people, watching the sun set, and yet when you wake, only a few minutes have passed in the outside world. This is why dreams can feel so profound. They allow you to experience more time than waking life permits. They expand your life in a way that can't be measured by clocks. The brain achieves this partly by removing the pauses that reality demands. In waking life, if you walk from your home to a park, the journey takes real minutes. In a dream, the journey might vanish, leaving only the arrival. Your mind saves space for what feels meaningful and trims away what does not. It's not unlike the way memory works. When you remember your last birthday, you don't replay every moment in real time. You jump from one vivid fragment to another, compressing hours into seconds in your mind. Dreams are like memories being created in real time, shaped by emotion, edited for narrative, bent toward meaning instead of accuracy. Even though dream time can stretch, it can also collapse. There are dreams that feel fleeting, a sudden image, a short scene, just before waking. Yet these too may leave a strong impression, because in dreams, it's not the length that matters, but the depth of the moment. Some people use this elasticity as a form of creativity. Artists, writers, and problem solvers sometimes turn to dreams for inspiration because a dream can hold a day's worth of experience in minutes, enough to explore an idea in depth. And yet, the physics of a dream second has limits. Your brain still cycles through REM and non-REM stages, and these have patterns in real time. A REM stage early in the night may last only a few minutes, while later, REM stages can stretch up to an hour. This means that longer dreams are more likely to occur toward morning, when REM periods lengthen. But in the dream itself, you do not notice this structure. You are immersed. You feel only the story, and the story decides how long a moment should last. You may now notice how different this is from the steady beat of your SCN, that careful, light-tuned rhythm we explored in the last chapter. Here, there is no conductor, or rather, you are the conductor, and you change the tempo at will. A second in waking life is always the same length. A second in a dream is a question. As you drift deeper into this idea, you can feel yourself floating in that question now. The edges between the waking measure of time and the dream's measure are blurring. You are in the in-between, that twilight space where the rules are soft. You are standing at the edge of a dream, and already something is different. The air feels thick, charged with a presence you can't name. Your steps are slow, not because the ground resists you, but because your heart does. When you dream, you are not only seeing, you are feeling, and these feelings become the loom on which your sense of time is woven. In waking life, moments of high emotion can feel longer than they truly are. A surprise, a rush of joy, a sudden fear, these can stretch a second into an ocean. Your mind, flooded with sensation, takes in more detail. It notices more. It records more. This extra recording is part of what makes emotional moments seem longer. You are packing more into each tick of the clock. In dreams, the same thing happens, but more deeply. There is no real clock in the background, no anchor to waking time. The only measure you have is your inner one. And emotion changes that measure. Think of a dream where you feel fear. Perhaps you are being chased or lost in a strange place. Fear quickens your breath, even in sleep. It heightens your senses, making the colors sharper, the sounds louder, the space around you more alive. With so much information pouring in, your brain may perceive that more time is passing. What might be only seconds in waking life can feel like long, drawn-out minutes in a dream. Joy can stretch time too, but differently. In a dream filled with delight, flying over a golden ocean, dancing in the soft light of a place that doesn't exist, you may linger. The scene feels slow, like the world is breathing with you. This is because your brain in joy is not rushing to escape or survive. It is savoring. It opens itself to each detail, each shimmering texture of the moment. And in that savoring, it expands the time it feels you've spent there. Science tells us that emotions change time perception by altering how the brain processes incoming information. The amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure deep in the brain, is central to this process. It helps detect emotionally charged events and influences how those events are stored in memory. When the amygdala is highly active, whether from fear, excitement, or wonder, the brain's attention sharpens. This heightened attention makes each moment seem fuller. In dreams, the amygdala is often more active than in waking life, especially during REM sleep. This is part of why dream emotions can be so intense and why they seem to color the passage of time so completely. But it is not just the amygdala at work. Other parts of the brain, like the hippocampus, which helps you form and navigate memories, interact with emotion to shape how a dream unfolds. If a dream feels emotionally important, the hippocampus may write more detail into it, And more detail means more perceived time. You can think of it like a painting. A quick sketch can be done in minutes. Few strokes, little shading. But a richly detailed painting, layered with color and texture, takes longer to make. Your mind experiences dreams in a similar way. Emotion adds detail, and detail takes up time. Sometimes, this stretching of time can make a dream feel endless. If you have ever had a nightmare that seemed to go on and on, you may have felt the weight of this phenomenon. Fear's sharpening effect on perception can make the dream feel like it is happening in slow motion, each action unfolding with unbearable clarity. The same is true of dreams filled with awe. Imagine standing before a dream landscape so vast and beautiful that it takes your breath away. Your mind cannot help but linger, drinking in every curve of the mountains, every glimmer of light on the water. This lingering expands your sense of the moment until it feels as though you have been there for hours. In waking life, researchers have found that time feels slower when we experience something unfamiliar or extraordinary. A first kiss, a sudden accident, a breathtaking view. These are moments when time seems to dilate. It is thought that novelty triggers the brain to store more memories, and when we look back, more memories give the impression that more time has passed. Dreams are almost always filled with novelty. You are constantly encountering new places, new faces, new impossibilities. Add strong emotion to this novelty, and you have a recipe for deep time distortion. This is why a single dream scene can feel like a lifetime. It is not because your brain has somehow made the external world slow down, but because inside the dream, you are living more fully in each imagined second. Even neutral dreams, those without strong emotion, can be stretched if they hold a quiet, steady presence. But without the pull of feeling, they tend to pass more quickly in your perception. Emotion is the wind in the sails of dream time. Without it, you drift slowly. With it, you race or hover, depending on whether the wind is fierce or gentle. There is also a curious interplay between emotion and control. In lucid dreams, where you are aware you are dreaming, you may be able to slow or speed the perceived passage of time by shifting your emotional state. Calming yourself in a nightmare can make the dream flow faster toward an end. Immersing yourself in joy can make the dream feel longer and richer. It is worth noting that these emotional effects on time perception do not just occur in dreams. Meditators sometimes report that deep states of peace make time feel expansive and unhurried. Athletes in flow states often say that hours pass like minutes. These waking parallels help us understand how the brain's attention and emotion work together to shape time. In dreams, this effect is magnified because you are freed from the external world's clock. The only clock is the rhythm of your heart, the pulse of your feelings, the rise and fall of your inner tides. And so, as you dream, you live in moments that are not measured, but felt. A second of terror can stretch into a corridor you cannot escape. A second of joy can become an endless garden you never wish to leave. When you wake, these stretches of time can be hard to explain. You know the dream lasted only a fraction of the night, yet it holds the weight of hours. This is because you did not measure it with minutes. You measured it with meaning. Meaning is not uniform. It bends and twists. It speeds up and slows down according to the currents of the heart. Now, as you breathe slowly in the quiet dark, you might imagine your dreams as oceans of emotion, where the tides carry you forward or keep you still. Your journey through them is never by distance or seconds, but by depth. And just beyond this thought, there is something else waiting. another layer of the dream clock, because it is not only emotion that shapes the dream's length, it is also the body itself, its rhythms, its cycles, its hidden sense of time ticking beneath the surface. You drift deeper, carried forward from the last thought, like a small boat following the tide. The dream is still unfolding around you, but beneath its colors and shapes, your body moves to a rhythm older than memory. This is your body's clock, not the ticking of seconds in the room where you sleep, but the slow, steady signals written into your cells. Even when you are lost in dream images, your heart continues to beat, your lungs rise and fall, your temperature drifts in its nightly pattern. Each of these quiet changes is a marker of time, a language your body understands, even when your mind is wandering far away. Science calls this deep, hidden timing system circadian rhythm. It is your inner day-night cycle, roughly 24 hours long, regulated by a tiny cluster of neurons in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. It sits in the hypothalamus, just above where the nerves of your eyes cross. This position allows it to read. During the day, light tells the SCN to keep you alert, to raise your temperature slightly, to release certain hormones that help you stay awake. At night, darkness triggers the release of melatonin, the hormone that signals your body to rest. But the circadian rhythm doesn't just decide when you are sleepy. It also influences the structure of your sleep itself, the way you move through its different stages. You may think of sleep as a single, unbroken state, but it is not. It is a cycle, and in that cycle, dreams have their own place. The most vivid dreams occur during REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, a stage named for the way your eyes dart beneath your closed lids. In REM sleep, your brain's activity patterns are surprisingly similar to those of wakefulness, while your muscles rest in near-complete stillness. A typical night's sleep contains several REM periods, each longer than the one before. Early in the night, a REM phase may last only a few minutes. By the last cycle before waking, it can stretch to an hour or more. This means that the time available for dreaming isn't constant through the night. It swells, like a tide rising toward morning. Your body's clock is what shapes this pattern. It keeps the progression of sleep stages, light sleep, deep sleep, REM, in a repeating loop, usually lasting about 90 minutes each. These loops are called ultradian rhythms, shorter cycles within the larger circadian day. Within each loop, there is a gentle rise and fall in brain chemistry, in heart rate, in breathing speed. These shifts act like invisible markers, signaling to your mind when to sink deeper, when to rise toward dreaming, and when to return toward waking. Even though dream time can feel elastic and strange, it is still bound, in part, by these physical cycles. A dream cannot spill endlessly across hours if the body is ready to leave REM sleep. The stage will change, and with it, the dream will dissolve. Sometimes the change is gentle. You glide from a dream into light sleep, and another dream blooms in its place. Other times, it is sudden, a shift in breathing, a stirring of muscles, and you are awake. This is why you may dream of running, and then suddenly find yourself dreaming of something entirely different. The body's clock has turned the page, and the mind follows. There are smaller clocks within you too, rhythms that keep time on an even shorter scale. Your heart, for example, beats at its own pace, slowing during deep sleep, quickening in REM. These changes can subtly influence how dreams unfold. A slower heartbeat may accompany calmer dreams. A faster one, perhaps stirred by emotion, may make the dream feel more urgent or vivid. Your breathing also moves in waves. During REM sleep, it becomes irregular, sometimes quick and shallow, sometimes slow and deep. These variations can become part of the dream's fabric. A rapid breath woven into a dream of climbing a hill. A long sigh mirrored in a dream of floating on water. Even the temperature of your body follows a nightly curve. It tends to drop slightly as you fall asleep, reaching its lowest point in the early morning hours. This cooling may influence the tone of dreams. A slight chill in the body translating into a dream of snow, or a shift toward warmth leading to a dream of sunlight. These bodily rhythms do not create the dream images themselves, but they shape the space in which the dream happens. Like the stage crew in a theater, they set the lighting, adjust the backdrop, decide how long each act will last. It is possible, scientists believe, that your sense of time in dreams is partly built on these internal cues. Even without an external clock, your body provides a gentle framework. When your heart has beaten a certain number of times, when your lungs have taken a certain number of breaths, the next phase of the cycle begins. And yet, this framework is flexible. As we saw before, emotion can stretch or compress it in your perception. You may feel you have lived hours in a dream when only one REM period has passed. Or a dream may feel fleeting, even though your body was in REM for a long while. Still, the body keeps its quiet schedule. It is the silent conductor of the night's symphony, ensuring that each movement follows the next, that the music eventually resolves into morning. There is a comfort in this. While your mind wanders through strange landscapes, your body remains anchored in a rhythm as old as your first heartbeat. If you listen closely, not with your ears, but with your awareness, you might sense this rhythm even now. The slow pulse in your chest, the steady rise and fall of your breath, the coolness in the air around your skin. These are your timekeepers. They are always there, even when the dream has carried you far from where you began. And yet, there is another force at play in the dream's clock. Not emotion, not the body's rhythms, but memory. For memory is what allows you to measure time at all. Without it, a moment would vanish as soon as it began. In dreams, memory behaves differently than in waking life, and this difference changes how long a dream feels. But that is a doorway we have not stepped through yet, and it waits just ahead. The dream is unfolding, and yet you cannot help but notice. It has no clear beginning. You are already here, already walking, already speaking, already in the middle of a story. That strange arrival, stepping into the middle of a scene without recalling the first page, is one of the quiet clues that memory in dreams works differently than memory when you are awake. In waking life, your sense of time is stitched together by memory. Moment follows moment, and each one leaves a trace. You can look back, retrace the steps, remember how you got here. This is possible because of a part of your brain called the hippocampus. It is shaped a little like a curled seahorse, nestled deep within the temporal lobes. The hippocampus is a master archivist. It takes the raw stream of experiences and stores them in a way your brain can revisit later. When you are awake, it works constantly, taking in the details of where you are, what you see, what you hear, and linking them into a sequence. This sequence is what lets you say, first this happened, then that. But in dreams, the hippocampus is quieter. It is not entirely asleep, but its role changes. It is less concerned with recording events in a clear line and more open to weaving fragments together in unexpected ways. Some scientists believe this is because during REM sleep, the brain is busy processing and reorganizing memories from the day before. Rather than neatly cataloging them, it plays with them, testing different arrangements, linking distant events, finding hidden patterns. This rearranging is essential for learning. It helps the brain decide what to keep, what to discard, and how to connect new information with what you already know. But it also means that in dreams, your timeline is loose. A scene may lead to another without the bridge of an in-between moment. You may leap from one place to another without remembering the journey. And without that steady chain of memories, your ability to measure how much time has passed becomes blurred. Imagine trying to tell the time. If your clock's minute hand sometimes vanished, sometimes jumped ahead, sometimes ran backward for a moment before correcting itself. That is what memory in dreams feels like. This is why you can live through a dream that seems to contain hours of events, traveling through cities, meeting people, hearing long conversations. And yet when you wake, realize that the dream happened in the space of a few minutes of REM sleep. Your memory in dreams does not record every detail, so the spaces between moments feel stretched or compressed. The hippocampus also interacts differently with another brain region called the prefrontal cortex, the part of you most responsible for logical sequencing and for checking consistency in your thoughts. During REM sleep, this region is less active. It does not question how you could be in your childhood home one moment and in a distant galaxy the next. It does not try to align the events into a sensible order. Without that constant correction, memory in dreams becomes like a river flowing in unpredictable curves. And without fixed landmarks, you cannot say how long you have been drifting. There is also the matter of working memory, the short-term mental space where you hold what just happened so you can connect it to what happens next. In dreams, this workspace is smaller, more fragile. It can hold only a few moments at a time before the earlier ones slip away. That's why you can forget the beginning of a dream scene even as you are still inside it. It's like walking through a mist. The path behind you disappears even as you keep moving forward. When you wake, this fragile memory of dreams fades quickly. The hippocampus is not designed to preserve dream events in the same way as waking ones. Dreams are often made of unstable combinations of images, not anchored in real sensory input, and so the brain treats them as less important to store. But here is the paradox. Even though your dream memories are incomplete, your sense of time inside the dream is built entirely from them. If your dream self remembers many changes of place, many conversations, many events, you feel as though a long time has passed. If there are few memory markers, you feel the dream was brief. It is the same in waking life. Days filled with new experiences feel longer. The difference is that in waking life, your memories are recorded in a more stable way, so your sense of time is more consistent. In dreams, you are relying on a shifting, partial record. Scientists have tried to measure dream time by waking sleepers during REM and asking them to estimate how long they had been dreaming. Surprisingly, the estimates often match real-world time fairly closely, at least for short dreams. This suggests that the brain does have some internal clock running during dreams, perhaps guided by the body's rhythms we explored before. But that memory can still distort the feeling of length. When your hippocampus strings together many dream moments in quick succession, your mind interprets that as more time passing. When it leaves long blank spaces, time feels shorter. And then there is emotional memory, the kind stored not in the hippocampus, but in the amygdala and other emotional centers of the brain. In dreams, emotional memory is vivid, sometimes even stronger than the memory of events. You may not remember exactly what happened, but you remember how it felt. Strong emotions can stretch your sense of time. Fear can make moments feel longer, as if each second is expanded to hold more detail. Joy can do the same, making a moment feel full and rich. Calm can compress time, letting it pass without you noticing. In dreams, because emotional memory is strong and event memory is weaker, your time perception is more tied to feeling than to sequence. This means you could have a dream that feels like it lasted hours because of its emotional depth, even if, by the clock, only a few minutes passed. And so, inside the dream, memory is not a simple recorder. It is the painter, the stage manager, and sometimes the trickster. It builds the scenery, it chooses which parts to keep, and it allows you to step into a scene already in progress, without worrying how you got there. When you wake, you may try to follow the thread back and find it vanishes in your hands. It is not that the dream was never there. It is that its memory was always a shifting shape. In waking life, you measure time by what you can recall. In dreams, you measure it by what remains long enough to notice. And this, too, is part of the mystery. Because the keeper of dream time is not just the clock in your body, nor the emotions in your heart, but the fragile record in your mind, the memories that shimmer and fade even as you try to hold them still. When the dream ends, the memory ends too, and time for that dream is over. But there is another question still waiting. If memory in dreams is so fluid, what does that mean for the reality of the dream world? Is dream time a separate world's time, or simply your own mind's invention? You are lying in bed, your breathing soft, your body still. Somewhere deep inside, your heart keeps its steady beat. Your temperature shifts in gentle cycles. Your cells obey a rhythm set by light and dark, by day and night. This is your first clock, the one that never sleeps. It is built into your body, woven into the patterns of your biology. Scientists call it the circadian rhythm, from the Latin circa, meaning around, and dies, meaning day. It runs on a cycle of roughly 24 hours, tied to the rotation of the Earth. Even without sunlight, this clock would keep ticking, though it might drift slightly over time. It is guided by a tiny cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a name that sounds vast but points to something no bigger than a grain of rice. This little structure is the master timekeeper for your body. It signals when to release melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy. It tells your organs when to be most active and when to rest. It coordinates the rise and fall of blood pressure, body temperature, and alertness through the day and night. This is the waking world clock, a time you can measure with instruments, seconds, and minutes, matching those of any other clock on Earth. But when you sleep and the dream begins, another clock starts ticking. This second clock does not measure rotations of the Earth. It does not care about the position of the sun. It keeps time according to the flow of images, the pace of feelings, the rhythm of thought. This is your dream clock. It lives not in a single place in the brain, but in the interaction of many regions, the sensory areas, the limbic system, the networks that generate and hold attention in a shifting scene. While your body clock is steady, predictable, measuring physical seconds, the dream clock is fluid. Its seconds can stretch like silk or snap short like a spark. Sometimes, these two clocks run in harmony. When researchers wake dreamers and ask them to estimate how long they've been dreaming, the answers are often, it is as though the dream clock has borrowed the metronome of the body clock, ticking in unison for a while. But just as often, the two clocks drift apart. You might wake from a dream that felt like an entire day's journey, only to find that mere minutes have passed, or you might dream a short, vivid burst of events that somehow filled a long stretch of your sleep. Why does this happen? One reason lies in attention. In waking life, your attention moves in sync with the passing of real time. When you are deeply engaged, you notice more detail, and your brain lays down more memories. When you are bored or distracted, time can seem to slow, even though the clock's hands move steadily. In dreams, attention is even more fluid. You can focus intensely on a single image or feeling, stretching it out so that a moment seems endless. Or your attention can dart quickly from one scene to another, making a long sequence of events fit into a brief, real-world interval. Another reason lies in REM cycles. In a typical night's sleep, you move through stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, in cycles of about 90 minutes. The first REM period of the night may be only a few minutes long. Later, REM periods can last up to an hour. Your dream clock often matches the length of the REM period. It has that much time to fill, but within that space, it is free to shape moments in ways the waking clock never would. Sometimes, the body clock and dream clock even influence each other. If your body is disturbed by noise, temperature, or an uncomfortable position, the dream clock may respond, speeding up or slowing down as your brain adjusts the narrative to fit the incoming signals. It is as if the dream clock keeps one ear on the steady tick of the body clock, but reserves the right to improvise its own melody. There is also a curious effect seen in lucid dreaming, when you are aware you are dreaming and can sometimes control the dream. Experiments have shown that lucid dreamers can count seconds inside their dreams and signal the count to researchers with pre-agreed eye movements. Often, their counting matches real-world time closely, but at other times, especially when the dream is more emotional or chaotic, the counting slows or speeds relative to the lab clock. This suggests that the two clocks can run in sync, but do not always choose to. One might imagine them as two travelers walking side by side. Most of the time, their steps match, but now and then, one lingers to admire a view or hurries ahead to catch the sunset, and the space between them changes. In your own dreams, you may have felt this divergence. A long conversation that felt unhurried, unfolding in natural rhythm, may in truth have taken only seconds of REM time. Or an action scene that seemed to flash by might have consumed most of a REM cycle. Your brain is capable of holding both clocks at once. The body clock quietly continues its beat, keeping you in step with the physical world. The dream clock runs on imagery, emotion, and shifting attention, marking time in its own language. Perhaps this is why you can sometimes wake inside a dream and sense that it is nearly over. Somehow your dream clock is reading the closing moments of a REM cycle, even without looking at any real clock. It also explains why a sudden waking can feel like being torn from one world into another. The two clocks snap back into alignment the moment your eyes open, and yet you carry the memory of how they drifted. You know the dream felt longer or shorter or exactly matched, and this knowledge stays as a quiet reminder that time is not a single, unchanging river. Instead, it is two rivers running side by side, sometimes merging, sometimes wandering apart. The body clock keeps you tied to the earth, its days and nights. The dream clock lets you wander beyond, through landscapes where minutes and hours are made of thought and feeling. In the end, both clocks belong to you. You are the traveler between their worlds, and as you drift tonight, you may wonder, if the clocks can run together or apart, What happens when the dream itself becomes aware of time passing? There is a moment, rare and shimmering, when your dream knows it is a dream. The air feels different. The light sharpens. A strange stillness enters the scene, as though someone has whispered in the ear of the world. You notice you are in a dream, the way you might notice you are in a room with an open window. Subtle at first, but changing everything. Your thoughts shift. Instead of being carried entirely by the dream, you begin to steer, or at least to watch with a clearer gaze. And sometimes, in this state, known as lucid dreaming, you begin to notice time. In waking life, you can sense the passing of seconds without a clock. Your body feels the slow pull of minutes becoming hours. Your attention marks the spaces between events. In dreams, most of the time, this sense is muted or replaced by the logic of the scene. You do not ask, "How long have I been here?" because you are simply there. But in lucid dreams, you might suddenly think, "How much time is left?" or "How long until something happens?" This changes the dream. Researchers have studied this by working with experienced lucid dreamers. They ask them to perform specific timing tasks once they realize they are dreaming. For example, count to 10 slowly and then signal the waking world by moving their eyes in a pre-agreed pattern. In many cases, the count inside the dream matches the real-world seconds closely. It is as though the dreamer's inner clock has tuned itself to the steady beat of the waking body. But not always. When the dream is busy, full of vivid imagery or strong emotion, the count often drifts. A 10-second count in the dream might take 15 waking seconds, or just 6. It is as though the dream has its own gravity. Attention bends around the images and feelings, pulling or stretching the moments as they pass. In your own dreams, you may have felt something like this. Perhaps you were waiting for a door to open, watching the light change in the hallway, feeling the seconds pile up as you waited. When you woke, you could not tell if that wait was minutes or hours. Or perhaps you have dreamed of a race, a deadline, a clock ticking towards zero. Inside that urgency, time seemed faster, your movements sharper, the dream pressing forward. When a dream notices time, it begins to use time as part of the story. Your brain does this in waking life too. When you focus on time, watching a clock during a test, waiting for the oven to ding, your perception of its passing shifts. The more closely you watch, the slower it can seem. This is sometimes called the oddball effect. Unusual events or intense focus can stretch your sense of a moment's length. In dreams, this effect can be magnified. Because there is no real clock to anchor you, the seconds you feel are constructed entirely by your mind. They can swell into slow tides or shrink into quick splashes. Curiously, when a lucid dreamer sets a goal, "I will count to 20, or I will wait 5 minutes before opening the door," the act of measuring seems to steady the flow. The brain recruits the same areas used for timing tasks when awake: the cerebellum, the basal ganglia, and parts of the prefrontal cortex. It is as though the dream borrows the body clock's metronome for a while. But here is where it becomes even stranger. Sometimes the dream builds its own clock. You might see an actual watch, or a wall clock, or hear the rhythmic tolling of a bell. You might feel a heartbeat that acts like a ticking second hand. These dream clocks are rarely accurate by waking standards. A watch face might change each time you look at it. A digital readout might show symbols instead of numbers. The chimes might ring at odd, uneven intervals. Why? Because in the dream, the brain is not reading from an actual steady oscillator like in a watch. It is generating the signals itself. and those signals are shaped by whatever else the dream is doing. If the scene is calm, the dream clock may keep a gentle, even rhythm. If the scene is chaotic, the clock may rush or stutter to match the mood. And sometimes the dream clock is a trickster. It tells you there is plenty of time when in fact the REM period is almost over, or it insists that time is running out even as you drift deeper into sleep. This is not deception. It is simply the dream using time as another texture, another brushstroke in its painting. When your dream becomes aware of time, you become aware of yourself in a different way. You are no longer only the character in the story. You are also the observer, the one who measures, the one who knows that the story has a duration. This awareness can be delicate. Sometimes, thinking too much about time in a dream will wake you. It is as though the act of measuring calls in the body clock's authority, reminding you that the waking world exists, but other times it is a doorway deeper in. You realize you have time to explore, to walk slowly through the dream, to test its boundaries. This is one of the most remarkable things about the mind in sleep. It can hold both the fiction of the dream and the fact of time at the same moment. In those rare dreams where you can watch time pass and still stay inside the story, you experience something, and you might ask yourself, as many dreamers have, if I can notice time in a dream, can I change it? Can I slow it, stretch it, or make it run backward? The answer leads us onward. For now, you drift toward that next question, the dream still holding you between its seconds. In waking life, you cannot stretch a second. It passes with the same steady beat for everyone, no matter how much you wish it would pause. But in dreams, time can melt. You have already felt its strange elasticity, a short nap that feels like a long journey, a dream conversation that seems to last hours but fits between the beats of your sleeping heart. Now, imagine becoming aware of that elasticity and gently guiding it. Lucid dreamers sometimes report that they can slow a falling object until it hovers mid-air, or extend a single note in a song until it becomes an endless hum. It is not done by straining or commanding, but by letting the mind lean toward a different pace. Like a river following a change in its banks, the dream's current bends with your attention. Neuroscientists think this is possible because dreams are not bound to the strict timing of sensory input. When you are awake, your brain's sense of time is constantly recalibrated by the rhythm of sights, sounds, and movements. In sleep, most of these inputs are silenced. Without those anchors, your inner clock floats. The brain's temporal binding, its way of stitching moments together, becomes flexible, able to sew wider or narrower stitches depending on mood, memory, or intent. Think of it like editing a film. In waking life, you must keep the footage exactly as it was recorded. In dreams, you are the editor, and the footage is yours to reshape. You can hold a single frame for as long as you like, or jump forward in the story with a cut. Dreamers often discover that slowing time works best when they slow themselves. If you walk more deliberately, breathe more deeply, and notice every detail, the dream tends to follow suit. Similarly, speeding up a dream often begins with movement, running, flying, or thinking in quick bursts. The dream accelerates to match your pace. This mirrors something that happens in waking perception. Studies have shown that when you move quickly, time feels shorter. When you are still, time feels longer. It is as if your brain's metronome takes its tempo from your body's rhythm. But in dreams, this relationship is more fluid. You might stand perfectly still and still stretch a moment into something vast. You might race through a scene, but feel every detail as though time has slowed. One lucid dreamer described it like this: "It's not that the dream slows down for me, it's that I move at my own speed, and the dream keeps giving me exactly as much as I want to notice." Perhaps you have felt this without realizing it. In a dream of danger, you might dodge an object and feel the motion unfold in perfect clarity, each part visible, even though in waking life it would happen in an instant. Your brain in that moment is not obeying the real-world second. It is obeying the second as you feel it. Some researchers believe this sense of control over dream time comes from the same networks that handle imagination and prediction. The prefrontal cortex, more active in lucid dreams than in regular ones, can shape the unfolding of events based on intention. It is not unlike daydreaming while awake. You can linger on a thought, replay a scene in your head, or imagine a moment stretching. In dreams, that imagined pacing is the pacing. But there is a subtlety here. If you try to grip too tightly, the dream can resist. Pushing against the flow can cause the scene to fade or change. Control in dreams is more like surfing than steering a car. You move with the wave, shifting your weight, finding the sweet spot between influence and surrender. Dream yogis, practitioners who train to navigate dreams consciously, speak of lengthening the moment by entering a state of profound calm. They describe seeing a drop of water fall from a leaf and hanging there, perfect and unmoving, as they observe it. Others speak of turning seconds into hours by filling them with layer upon layer of detail, looking closely at a flower, then noticing the insect on the petal, then hearing the wind shift, each new focus slowing the dream's heartbeat. You can try this yourself if you find lucidity in a dream. Begin by becoming still. Feel the texture of the dream around you, the air, the ground, the light. What is fascinating is that these shifts may not match waking reality at all. You might spend an hour in a dream, only to wake and find that only a few minutes of REM sleep have passed. This is the paradox. Even when you bend time in a dream, the body's clock ticks on steadily. But the experience, the part you live through, belongs entirely to you. And this raises a gentle, intriguing question. If dream time is so personal, can we use it for more than play? Can we stretch the moments to learn, to heal, to explore our inner landscapes in ways waking time does not allow? These questions lead us toward a deeper mystery: the ways the brain uses altered time perception, not just in dreams, but in memory itself. Because sometimes, when you dream, you are not only bending the seconds, you are bending the way your life's moments are stitched together. And that is where we will drift next. You open your eyes in a dream, and the scene around you feels familiar. It might be a street from your childhood, or a place you have never truly been, yet somehow remember. This is the first clue that dreams and memories are made from the same cloth. The brain, in both waking and dreaming, is a weaver. Its threads are moments, but those threads are not all the same length. Think of your own past. Some days seem long when you remember them. A birthday, a long trip, a first love. Other days shrink to a few blurred frames, barely taking up space in your mind. This is not because the clock ticked differently. It is because memory is stitched with emotional thread. Moments that feel rich, whether with joy, fear, or wonder, are woven with thick, vibrant fibers that seem to stretch across the tapestry. Routine moments are spun with thinner, paler strands, barely leaving a trace. Dreams borrow these threads freely. Sometimes they pull from long, bright strands of childhood. Other times, They pick loose fibers from yesterday's conversation. The loom does not care about order. It cares about pattern. In sleep, the hippocampus, the brain's master archivist, reactivates. It replays experiences, strengthening some connections, letting others fade. This replay does not follow the clock's pacing. It follows the mind's own rhythm. A dream might leap from a breakfast table to a mountain peak to a classroom, all in what feels like a single breath. To the brain, this is not strange. It is simply connecting threads that share a color, a texture, a feeling. When you remember a dream later, you might notice that certain parts seem to last longer in your mind. This is memory's hand at work again, stretching what mattered, shrinking what did not. And here lies a curious truth. Your sense of a moment's length is deeply tied to how well you remember it. If you recall every detail, time feels full. If you recall little, time feels thin. This is why a single, vivid dream can feel longer than it was. The richness of its imagery fills your mental space, like a tightly woven square of fabric. Scientists have studied this link between time and memory in waking life as well. They find that when people are exposed to new, complex environments, they later remember those moments as lasting longer. Routine shrinks in hindsight. This is called the holiday paradox. On vacation, time seems to fly in the moment, but feels long in memory. At work, time may feel slow as it passes, but short in recollection. Dreams play with this paradox constantly. A rapid series of dream events can feel enormous when remembered, because each event is a unique thread in the weave. The opposite can also happen. A dream that seemed endlessly long while you slept may dissolve upon waking into a single vague impression. Memory, then, is not a perfect record of time. It is the loom that decides how much thread to use for each piece. Inside the sleeping brain, this loom is more creative than accurate. It is not bound to the true order of events, nor to the true duration of seconds. It edits for meaning, for connection, for emotional weight. Imagine watching a film that has been recut by someone who loves you. They keep the moments that make you smile, that teach you something, that stir your heart. They trim away the empty spaces. That is your dreaming memory. But why does this matter? Because how you experience time in dreams can influence how you carry time in waking life. If a dream gives you a deep, lingering experience of peace, your waking mind may remember that peace as something vast, as though it took hours. You may draw on it later as a well of calm, even if it lasted only seconds in REM. Similarly, a frightening dream might be remembered as longer than it truly was, because fear threads are thick and heavy in the weave. They take up space. This means that your relationship with time is not just about clocks, it is about the weight of moments, and those weights are carried over from night into day. Consider this. In lucid dreaming, when you choose to linger in a certain scene, you are not just shaping dream time. You may also be shaping the thread that will remain in memory. A longer, richer dream moment is more likely to be remembered as a long, rich waking memory. It is here that the idea of time control in dreams meets the art of memory shaping. You can, in a sense, choose which threads will feel the longest when you look back. This is why some dream explorers practice memory planting, deliberately filling a dream with textures, colors, and small details. Knowing these will anchor the moment in the weave. A wooden floor you can feel under your bare feet, the scent of rain in the air, the sound of distant bells. These are not just dream sensations, they are stitches that hold the thread in place. In the waking world, You can use a similar approach to slow your perception of time. When you notice small details, when you engage your senses fully, moments feel more spacious. You are giving the loom more thread to work with. And in dreams, this effect is magnified. A few seconds can hold a symphony of sensations if you choose to notice them. So the next time you find yourself in a dream, try to become the weaver. Choose your threads carefully. Stretch the moments you wish to keep. Let the rest slip away. Because in both dreams and waking life, time is not just what passes. It is what stays. And if time can be shaped in memory, then perhaps it can be shaped even before it is remembered. Which brings us to an even deeper possibility. If you can influence how time feels in dreams and in memory, can you also influence how time feels right now in the moment of living? Chapter 11. You take a slow breath. The air moves in, cool against your nostrils, warm as it leaves. Nothing else happens. No rushing thoughts, no waiting tasks. Just this moment. Already the edges of time feel softer. It is no longer a strict ticking line. It is a pool, deep, still, without borders. This is what scientists and meditators alike have noticed for centuries. Your perception of time is not fixed. It can stretch, sometimes endlessly, in the present moment. The paradox is simple. When you are deeply aware of now, when every sensation is noticed, time feels full. It feels long. Why? Because your brain is writing more into its record. The present moment, in the brain's language, is a stream of sensory snapshots, tiny pulses of light, sound, texture, taste. When you notice more of them, your brain's internal log grows dense. Later, when you remember, that density becomes your measure of time. Think about a child. A summer afternoon can feel endless to them. Every sound of the insects, every shift of the light through the leaves is registered, felt, held. As adults, we often compress the present. We skip over small details. We let days pass in a blur. And so, time feels thin. In neuroscience, this is sometimes called temporal resolution. How finely your mind slices the passing stream. When resolution is high, you perceive more frames per second, and the scene feels longer. In certain moments, a near accident, a sudden shock, people often say time slowed down. The brain, flooded with adrenaline, sharply increases its temporal resolution. Every movement, every flicker is caught in the net. The same can happen, more gently, in meditation or in certain dream states. When you give the present your undivided attention, it begins to expand. You can try this now. Listen, not just to my words, but to the faintest sounds behind them. The soft hum in the room, the breath in your own body, the tiny stretch of your skin as you inhale. The more you notice, the more spacious the moment becomes. In dreams, this spaciousness is not limited by physical events. You can stand by a river in a dream and listen to the water for what feels like hours. No interruptions, no outside clock, only presence. The psychologist William James called this the specious present, the short duration your consciousness holds at once. In waking life, this is usually just a few seconds, but in certain states, this present can grow. It can grow in meditation, in deep flow states, and perhaps most strikingly, in dreams. Imagine you are holding a bowl of water. If your attention wavers, the water sloshes, spills, and the moment is gone. If you hold it still, carefully, the bowl seems larger, the water deeper. The present is like that. This means that your relationship with time is not just about clocks, it is about the weight of moments, and those weights are carried over from night into day. Consider this. In lucid dreaming, when you choose to linger in a certain scene, You are not just shaping dream time. You may also be shaping the thread that will remain in memory. A longer, richer dream moment is more likely to be remembered as a long, rich waking memory. It is here that the idea of time control in dreams meets the art of memory shaping. You can, in a sense, choose which threads will feel the longest when you look back. This is why some dream explorers practice memory planting, deliberately filling a dream with textures, colors, and small details. Knowing these will anchor the moment in the weave. A wooden floor you can feel under your bare feet, the scent of rain in the air, the sound of distant bells. These are not just dream sensations, they are stitches that hold the thread in place. In the waking world, you can use a similar approach to slow your perception of time. When you notice small details, when you engage your senses fully, moments feel more spacious. You are giving the loom more thread to work with. And in dreams, this effect is magnified. A few seconds can hold a symphony of sensations if you choose to notice them. So the next time you find yourself in a dream, try to become the weaver. Choose your threads carefully. Stretch the moments you wish to keep. Let the rest slip away. Because in both dreams and waking life, time is not just what passes. It is what stays. And if time can be shaped in memory, then perhaps it can be shaped even before it is remembered. Which brings us to an even deeper possibility. If you can influence how time feels in dreams and in memory, can you also influence how time feels right now in the moment of living? Chapter 11. You take a slow breath. The air moves in, cool against your nostrils, warm as it leaves. Nothing else happens. No rushing thoughts, no waiting tasks. Just this moment. Already the edges of time feel softer. It is no longer a strict ticking line. It is a pool, deep, still, without borders. This is what scientists and meditators alike have noticed for centuries. Your perception of time is not fixed. It can stretch, sometimes endlessly, in the present moment. The paradox is simple. When you are deeply aware of now, when every sensation is noticed, time feels full. It feels long. Why? Because your brain is writing more into its record. The present moment, in the brain's language, is a stream of sensory snapshots, tiny pulses of light, sound, texture, taste. When you notice more of them, your brain's internal log grows dense. Later, when you remember, that density becomes your measure of time. Think about a child. A summer afternoon can feel endless to them. Every sound of the insects, every shift of the light through the leaves is registered, felt, held. As adults, we often compress the present. We skip over small details. We let days pass in a blur. And so, time feels thin. In neuroscience, this is sometimes called temporal resolution. How finely your mind slices the passing stream. When resolution is high, you perceive more frames per second, and the scene feels longer. In certain moments, a near accident, a sudden shock, people often say time slowed down. The brain, flooded with adrenaline, sharply increases its temporal resolution. Every movement, every flicker is caught in the net. The same can happen, more gently, in meditation or in certain dream states. When you give the present your undivided attention, it begins to expand. You can try this now. Listen, not just to my words, but to the faintest sounds behind them. The soft hum in the room, the breath in your own body, the tiny stretch of your skin as you inhale. The more you notice, the more spacious the moment becomes. In dreams, this spaciousness is not limited by physical events. You can stand by a river in a dream and listen to the water for what feels like hours. No interruptions, no outside clock, only presence. The psychologist William James called this the specious present, the short duration your consciousness holds at once. In waking life, this is usually just a few seconds, but in certain states, this present can grow. It can grow in meditation, in deep flow states, and perhaps most strikingly, in dreams. Imagine you are holding a bowl of water. If your attention wavers, the water sloshes, spills, and the moment is gone. If you hold it still, carefully, the bowl seems larger, the water deeper. The present is like that. The steadier you hold it, the more it contains. This ability to stretch the present has survival value. For animals, a richer awareness of now means faster reactions, more information to act on. For humans, it also has a more subtle gift, the chance to save a life. But here is where it folds back into our dream journey. In the sleeping mind, your present is not bound to actual sensory input. It is built from imagination, yet it feels just as real. And because there is no external clock to contradict you, this dream present can stretch far beyond its real-world seconds. Lucid dreamers often report the ability to remain in a single dream scene for what feels like a very long time, not by moving or doing, but by being, standing still, watching snow fall, hearing each flake touch the ground. It feels endless, yet it may be only seconds in waking time. In both waking and dreaming, the key is the same: attention. Attention is like the lens through which you look at time. Widen the lens, see more details, and the moment grows. Narrow the lens, ignore what is around you, and the moment shrinks. This is why, when distracted, whole days can disappear almost unnoticed, and why, in states of deep presence, minutes can feel abundant. This connection between attention and time is now a growing area of neuroscience. Studies show that mindfulness practices increase activity in brain networks linked to sensory processing and awareness. The more finely tuned these systems are, the more frames the brain collects, and the longer time feels. Your mind is both the clock and the storyteller, and the present moment is where the two meet. In waking life, you can stretch the present by slowing your breath, feeling your feet on the ground, noticing small colors and shapes around you. In dreams, you can stretch the present by anchoring yourself to one detail, a sound, a texture, a view, and letting it deepen. The effect is not just in the dream. A stretched present in sleep can spill into waking memory, becoming a long, rich thread in your mental tapestry. Perhaps this is one way dreams prepare you for life, by teaching you that moments can be expanded, that you can choose how much time they hold. So now the question unfolds. If you can stretch the present in dreams, and you can stretch it in waking life, could you one day live as though every moment were already long, already full? That is the journey we take next, into the art of carrying dream time into the bright light of day. Chapter 12. When you open your eyes in the morning, the first light enters without hurry. Your body is still warm from sleep. The echoes of the dream are fading, but something remains, a softness, a sense of spaciousness. It is here, in these few minutes, that you can notice how dream time lingers. In dreams, you were not chasing the clock. You were not counting seconds. You moved as if time would wait for you. And so it seemed to. Waking life often feels different. A current that pulls you forward, tasks stacked like stones, moments slipping away. But this is not the only way to live. Just as you learned in sleep to rest inside a single scene, you can do the same now. The first step is noticing your own pace. You might feel a natural urge to rush, to get ahead of time. But time cannot be gotten ahead of. It can only be met. So instead of running forward, Pause. Feel the texture of the air in the room, the way light bends on the edge of your hand, the weight of your breath as it enters and leaves. These details are the same, whether in dream or waking. The difference is not in the world, but in your attention. Scientists studying subjective time find that our sense of duration is strongly linked to how much information we process. When you are present, you process more. When you are distracted, you process less. In dreams, every moment feels new, each detail vivid, each sensation important. This novelty is one reason dream time feels longer. In waking life, you can restore novelty by truly seeing what is around you. Even familiar places become deep landscapes when you look without the filter of habit. There is a practice called micro-meditation. It is simple. Choose a moment, any moment, and give it full attention for just a few breaths. It might be the swirl of steam from a cup of tea, the sound of leaves against the window, the rhythm of your steps on a quiet street. For those few breaths, you live as you do in dreams, completely inside the scene. Over time, these small stretches of presence begin to link together. Minutes feel longer, hours open. The day no longer passes in a blur. Dream researchers sometimes talk about temporal bridges, ways in which experiences in dreams can influence waking perception. When you recall a dream in clear detail, you strengthen the same brain circuits that process sensory richness in waking life. This is one reason keeping a dream journal can change your sense of time. Each morning, when you write about your dreams, you practice holding moments still. You slow them down on the page. The same can happen with waking events. Writing about your day, or even replaying it in your mind before sleep, can stretch it. It is not about making time longer in the mechanical sense, but making it fuller. Fullness feels like length because it is richness, more to remember, more to live inside. There is also the rhythm of breath. In dreams, your breathing often matches the pace of the scene. Slow in calm landscapes, quick in running or flight. In waking life, you can use breath deliberately to slow the moment. Inhale fully, pause gently, exhale slowly. Repeat. This is more than relaxation. It is a cue to your brain to gather more detail, to widen the frame, to slow the story. When monks walk in meditation, they match each step to a breath. In that rhythm, minutes stretch into something almost like dream time. And then there is memory, the way you weave your story. In dreams, memory is made instantly. You recall places you have never been, faces you have never seen, as if they were always known. That sense of depth comes from the mind's ability to create and connect in the present. You can do the same here. Connect this morning's light to a memory from childhood. Link the sound of a passing train to a distant journey. Layer moments until they feel bigger than they are. This is how artists, poets, and those who live closely with the natural world experience time. As a tapestry, not a line. The more threads you weave into each moment, the more space it takes inside you. Some scientists might call this an attentional expansion of time. Others might call it a mindful life. In truth, it is the same thing. Dreams remind you that your mind is capable of stretching time at will. Carrying that gift into waking life is simply remembering to open the present wide. When you do, you may notice something curious. The boundary between dream and waking begins to blur. You may feel that both are part of the same continuous river of awareness, flowing at different speeds but made of the same water. And then something even gentler happens. You stop asking whether you are in a dream or in the day. You are simply here, in a moment that is fully yours. And so the dream fades, as all dreams do, but its quiet rhythm remains within you. You step into the day with the same spaciousness, the same unhurried breath. Time no longer feels like something to be chased or captured. It flows with you now, like a river that carries both your sleeping visions and your waking hours in the same gentle current. The clocks still turn, the sun still rises and falls, but inside, you know that time is yours to live, not in numbers, but in moments. And as night comes again, you return to that wide inner landscape, where minutes bloom into hours and hours dissolve into peace. Here, in the endless expanse between waking and dreaming, you rest, and time rests with you. And that brings us to the end of today's story, about time dilation and why our dreams feel so much longer than they are. I hope you enjoyed this peaceful journey through the science of sleep. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves bedtime stories too. And before we start the next adventure, tell me in the comments, from where in the world are you watching this video? Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the next story.